To news from our neighbors now, and the crisis in Zimbabwe continues to be a cause for concern in the SADC region. Zimbabwe's main opposition, the MDC, is criticizing South African envoys for not meeting them a few weeks back, while the governing ZANU-PF party is criticizing ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule for saying there is a crisis in that country. ANC International Relations Committee Chairperson Lindiwe Zulu and the MDC's Tendai Biti held a virtual meeting on how Zimbabwe can resolve its issues. eNCA Political Editor Vuyo Mvoko has been keeping an eye on developments there and some of the salient points that came out of this virtual briefing.
Well, this was an interesting conversation to do. Minister Lindiwe Zulu, who, of course, as you've just said, is the ANC's chairperson, is the chairperson of the ANC's International Relations Committee. And, if I may also add, someone who has been part of these conversations for a very long time. I'm sure many people will remember back about 7 years ago or so, she was called stupid and idiotic by the late Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe's president, at the times for criticisms she had leveled at the way the government of Zimbabwe at the time was handling elections. But back to this morning's conversation, Lindiwe Zulu still very much hopeful that SADC in particular is serious, she insists, about resolving the Zimbabwe situation, or at the very least getting the Zimbabweans to have a decent conversation that will deal with, that will go a long way in dealing with the crisis we are currently experiencing. And saying pretty much what Ace Magashule, the Secretary General of the ANC, told me over a week ago, that there is a crisis there, there's no two ways about it, and it is going to spill over to South Africa in one way or the other, and that it is a duty of everybody to ensure that something is done, beginning with, of course, conversations within and among the main actors within Zimbabwe. Now, you recall that on Monday, SADC had that a meeting whereafter none of us were actually convinced that it is seized with the matter or keen to actually, get the main actors in Zimbabwe moving on finding one another. But Lindiwe Zulu, very, very much optimistic. Take a listen to what she had to say.
We also think that SADC needs to deal with this issue in a different way. It can't be the same old way of we meet, we get reports, and the reports are what they are. They ignore some of the real basic things of what actually is happening on the ground. SADC will have to look at this in a different way, and we believe as the African National Congress we can work through that through the other liberation movements. In fact, when I finish this meeting, I'm supposed to be talking to all my counterparts, my counterparts in Mozambique, in Angola, and so forth. But then we also are saying that now there is an opportunity which must be, I mean, the President Cyril Ramaphosa, I can assure you that he's very much committed to resuscitating and looking into what did we do in the past, what worked, what didn't work, how must we approach Zimbabwe right now. It is in our interest as the African National Congress to make sure that we are objective, we are honest, we engage objectively and honestly to the issue.
A few weeks ago, speaking to eNCA, Tendai Biti of the opposition MDC, not happy that the envoys snubbed them when they came to Zimbabwe to meet with ZANU-PF. What did he say this time around?
Well, he had some sober reflections, one must say, to do, saying there has been, this is not the first time that Zimbabwe is in the point that it is finding itself in. He made the point that if you go back to the time when former President Thabo Mbeki was involved, some really invaluable gains were made. And he even said that Thabo Mbeki should actually be praised and not vilified for having started that process, because a lot of the gains were made there, but it was the Zimbabweans themselves, Tendai Biti was saying today, who actually squandered those opportunities. And from where he sits, gains, a lot of those gains have actually been reversed. And Lindiwe Zulu, whom you just heard now, also testified to that, because remember, when another former president, Jacob Zuma, was SADC's main man on this issue, Lindiwe Zulu was his advisor. And that is when, of course, there were those unfortunate comments and altercations with the late President Robert Mugabe. So Tendai Biti is saying maybe there needs to be a focus on the gains that he thinks are now being reversed, so that no one starts from scratch as though there isn't that history, which, as I say, did yield some positive results. But at the same time, he was actually very scathing about the governing party in Zimbabwe, saying ZANU-PF and the government don't seem keen to actually resolve the issues that are there for everyone to see, including violence, intimidation, and at times really disregard for the laws of the country. Take a listen.
I think that, look, we have no problem with the liberation movement. In fact, quite ironically, we consider ourselves as a project that is ultimately designed to fulfill the ambitions of the liberation project. In our country, we consider that ZANU-PF has failed and has betrayed the liberation project. And the liberation project under ZANU-PF has become exhausted and sterile, so it needs a revampation, and that's our aim. I mean, the liberation struggle spoke of freedom, spoke of human rights, spoke of equality, spoke of Ubuntu, and ZANU has become the antithesis of those very same principles, and that's what we stand for. And as I said before, what is required at the present moment going forward is basically a change of tack, a new disruptive approach to Zimbabwe, because we have failed in the past and we've let our people down in the past.
This is an issue we will not be putting behind us in a while. Thank you very much, Vuyo Mvoko, eNCA political editor. To West Africa.